What's up, ladies and gentlemen, for the last chapter of 2025 of Record of Ragnarok, also known as Shuumatsu no Valkyrie, chapter 113, entitled Springing the Trap. Before we get underway with this chapter, it's something that I did not notice until I read this chapter the other day, and obviously right now before doing the review. They claimed there were 7 primordial gods that remained, right? And we saw them. We saw the council of 7 primordial gods, or 6 of them plus Golnir, right? And that was the whole thing, the primordial gods. And once again, it's relevant to this new chapter because it's brought up that there's only 3 remaining. Okay. However, Izangi, I think the author fucked up. I haven't seen anybody bring it up on Reddit. Didn't see anybody bring it up on Discord. Didn't see anybody bring it up. But what is Izangi considered then? Izangi was there with the primordial gods. When the primordial gods were brought up, Izangi was the only figure recognized before even this flashback. And he's there as a primordial god, standing there, learning about Gelfnir, learning about the whole thing. He's there healing the Eye of Horus looking guy. He's alive. He's a primordial god. And apparently he's not on the council, not even considered, and in this chapter alone they say there's only 3 remaining and he's not among them. And I'm sitting there like, even I screwed that up. Even I have failed to mention or notice, but did everybody fail to mention and notice like me? Or has this been a thing that I missed the wrong thread or post about? Because Izangi is clearly a primordial god and is not featured in this flashback as one, but still featured in the flashback as one. So, thoughts? Feelings? Let me know down in the comment section down below. Let's get underway with the review for the rest of it. But I wanted to bring that up before I forgot, because when I read this chapter, it dawned on me, and then I went back and I reread all the, the chapters on Golnir and stuff like that. I was like, yes, Izangi's there. It's only the 88 primordial gods versus these people and like Yggdrasil and blah blah blah. And he's there in all the shots, but then he's not. So, anyways, now chapter 113. Brings us to going back on the disciples of Golnir, right? In that village and stuff like that, the hidden village and all that idea. And they're surrounded by this barrier. Now, of course, the last of them, Feldis, who was the first disciple of Golnir, the last of his true ones. He's been here for, we don't know how many hundreds of years or thousands of years. We have no idea the time frame of this. But our little boy VELK here, who ends up becoming the new Odin, becomes fake Odin, right? VELK here, he ends up, there on his deathbed, realizing that his favorite storyteller and stuff like that, he's going to die and stuff like that. And he's like, hey, thanks for smuggling me in the booze and stuff. He gives him this, the amulet of Golnir and stuff like that. It's called Gungnir. And he gives him the amulet that was bestowed on him by Golnir. It's my treasure. It's a good luck charm from the world tree and all that stuff. It'll protect you and all that stuff. So then he talks about, it's like, I don't really want you to die and stuff like that. So Feldis tries to pretend like, hey, just because I'm bedridden right now doesn't mean you can I'm kicking the bucket right this minute. And tries to make a good showing of it. Of course, he is on his last legs, as it were. Not that he's exactly walking. And fast forward to the fact that VELK is actually outside listening to the conversation between the second generation leader, who is Saga, and Feldis having this conversation going, he could tell he's a sharp kid. He didn't fall for that, but I didn't want his last memory of me to be coughing and hacking and that kind of idea. And he's like, yeah, Lord Feldis, you're the only one he really is attached to or loves. And he's like, well, I couldn't fool him looking like this anyways. And, as he slowly unwraps the bandages around his hands, it realizes that Jotun Spiel which is the protecting village. It's the power that protects the village and hides the village from even the primordial gods that Golnir invented, does have a requirement. Its power source is a life force of whoever casts the spell, sort of idea, or whoever uses it. So obviously he's been doing this for a very long time. It's his pride and honor, but he's slowly fading away. And Saga even says, well, as your successor, it's my job to do that for another, however many centuries or millennia, however long these gods are living. He's like, yeah, well, that's the price we pay to carry on the truth. Now, he also, for whatever reason, explains how to dispel the barrier. Now, this once again is overheard by VELK. And a lot of people also gave Golnir shit for saying, yes, give the history, but why write the way to undo the spell? And it's a bit of a catch-22 with that one. It's a little bit of a, okay, Golnir wanted the truth, history to be written with all the facts, for better or for worse. He wanted all of them. Options A, B, and C. Even if C was horrible, he wanted C written down. That was his thing. He wanted all the knowledge passed on. The good, the bad, and the indifferent. So, for better or for worse, that was his calling. That's what he chose to do. And so even when people were criticizing Golnir, saying, well, he could have passed down the history without saying, hey, yeah, oh, by the way, here's the instruction booklet to unleashing hell on, well, not Earth, hell on the cosmos. Maybe, leave that part blank. That's not Golnir's style, right? Because that would be an upfront to everything he was trying to, like the point he was trying to make and the point he was proving. This one, Feldis, I understand that eventually their idea might be to pass on to the world, eventually leave this village, right? They will eventually leave the village, so the future generations should know how to dispel the barrier. However, here's the little bit of the caveat that makes it different from Golnir's, is that, yeah, that might be necessary, and Volk overhears this, and Felder says you can't reveal it to anyone. He says, I may be the last of Lord Golnir's direct disciples, but this peace I've enjoyed is beyond my wildest hopes. And he claims, and yet I just have one regret. Lord Golnir, our master, the true history, his masterpiece, we will never spread it to the world. The primordial gods would never allow it. If only they were gone, and then one day we will, it'll be our victory. Felder says, well, thank you, Saga, but I think I might finally understand my master's feelings. The children like VELK, and VELK is listening to all this, by the way, says, and the young ones like you, for you to have to continue our fight, it's not fair. The fight is pretty much over. We lost, in a sense. And remember, because he does not know about the Book of Golnir at this point. He does not know of it. And he claims, rather than staking your lives on that truth, I'd rather you all just live your lives to their fullest and as you want. Lord Golnir told me I'm leaving them all to you, and I've been thinking that things might be better this way, and this is what he meant. So, the only problem I have with him letting him know how to dispel the barrier is Feldis knew that if any of them, once they were revealed, the primordial gods would come to kill them. Like, they would be assassinated no matter what, right? So, dispelling the barrier was not an option. Even to say, hey, we are not going to step on your toes. We're good. We're not going to reveal any history. We're going to let it die with us, whatever. The primordial gods aren't going to take them at their word. They're not going to do anything like that. And Feldis knows this. So, my thing is, I like that he says, I've been doing this fight a very long time. And while the truth in the history is important, and we have passed it down to the generations, which is good, so it will never die, maybe we just finally don't you know, care as much anymore about gaining the one up on the primordial gods. If we are the only ones who end up knowing the truth, that's enough. You know? It doesn't need to be spread maybe anymore, sort of idea. So he's changed his mind. And that's fine. My problem is since he is coming to this revelation, there'd be no need to give him the dispelling words to the barrier at that point. Because he knows the dispelling the barrier will basically mark the death of everybody in the village. Right? So that's my problem here as far as this chapter goes, is that Feldis, unlike Golnir, says, yeah, alright, we're good. I'm going to give you the option to dispel the barrier, but there is never going to be options A to Z, 1 to 100, where you're ever going to want to use this, because we can't know when the primordial gods are done, and we don't even know, for all they know, the primordial gods chose a successor. So even if, let's say these last 3 that show up in the chapter end up dying, you know, and they will, because we don't see them in the series, let's assume they ended up dying. Maybe they passed on. We're going to have one successor that we will tell the actual truth to. We'll take their mind and we'll give them our memories, and then they know that their mission, and they'll have one. Maybe the Valkyrie became that, or something like that. We'll have guardians. We'll have somebody who stands the test of time. In the same way that Golnir had his disciples, maybe the primordial gods passed down to a few select individuals of their choosing who carry on that mission to wait for the day when Golnir's disciples would reveal themselves so they could stomp out that light forever. As far as Feldis knows, that is entirely possible. Or the primordial gods will live forever. Or they found some other method to do so. So there would be no reason ever for till the end of time to ever use this dispel. So why pass it down? And only if the only reason this, as I said, is a little contradictory in my mind, and maybe I'm just overthinking it, but it's only contradictory in my mind because of his stance now on the history and on the truth and on the status of the village. Had he, like Saga, said, you know, one day, it might be generations from now, and millennia from now, and eons from now, but one day, we will finally walk outside this village and tell the truth of our master and know he was right, sort of idea. And it'll be the long game, but it will be the longest game in history, but we will win at the very end. If that was his stance, pass down that dispel. You go right ahead. But his words aren't meeting his actions right now. You see what I'm saying? That part is what's bothering me a little bit about this chapter. It doesn't make Feldis a bad character or anything like that. It's just contradictory, because if that's how he truly felt, there'd be no reason to pass down the dispel. The dispel is only for the sake of what Saga said, in the sense of, you know, one day when the primordial gods are all gone, I don't know how we're going to figure that out, but one day when that happens, we shall finally have our victory. And Feldis is like, yeah, we don't need to worry about that anymore. But I pass down the option for if it is. It just, you know, it just doesn't make sense to me as much. And as a result, it ends up with that, a lot of people commented that idiot MC energy going with VELK. He's like, I must save old man Feldis. I overheard this thing. Naruto 101 right now going on. You know, just like, well, this is the barrier. I will use, you know, maybe I'll figure it out and stuff. So I'm going to use this spell, the incantation spell, to dispel the barrier. He jumps through. He gets out there into the world, realizes it's been hidden by this giant boulder in the middle of the, you know, the landscape and stuff like that. So he goes out into the world. And he finds all these people. VELK is one of the biggest morons at this point, by the way. He is just once again, when people called him the stupid MC energy, he's got that in spades. Because not only does he know that, like, maybe this should be... Now, you could argue that, oh, well, he's just a kid and stuff like that, but, no. Not someone raised by historians should have learned nothing at this point. So even if you would argue he's just a boy, he's just a kid, and he doesn't know any better and stuff like that, you know, his whole idea was to see if the primordial gods were alive or dead. And he's so oblivious to the idea of, maybe I'll just walk into town and ask about them. You know, none of the people of Golnir have ever been there, so he's like, So he runs into some type of hippo god, and then he just says, you know, so I just want to know something. Do you know about Golnir? And he's like, no. And he's like, no, primordial god. Primordial god? No. You know, you can't tease us. Those are just legends. Those are just fables. They don't exist. And then he chooses to, like, he walks all around town asking about primordial gods. So that alone is a little bit sus. That's a little bit suspect. You know what I mean? Like, he's being pretty stupid. Asking once, maybe. Afterwards, you know, I would be doing this more of a covert operation. So he ends up going to even a library, one of the grand libraries, looks all through it, looking for keywords like Yggdrasil, Ragnarok, Gelfnir, Golnir. Like, oh my god, he's like, has he not been told? Like, Feldis and all them, did they not say, like, hey, by the way, this is the true history? Outside of here, they all aren't going to know this history. Like, VELK knows this. This is the whole idea of passing down all the information. Everyone in the village of Golnir knows we know the truth. Nobody else does, and that's why we're hidden. He even knew about the barrier. He goes, wow, I've never been this far before, so this is the barrier, huh? So it's not like it's uncommon knowledge, like, oh, we're locked in some hidden village or something. Like, that's not a shocker to him. So why are we locked away? Well, because we know the truth, and the primordial gods are, you know, they'll kill us if they ever found out where we were, because we know the real history of the world. He goes out there with that information and goes, what? You mean the libraries outside of the village of Golnir that have the true history and the whole reason we're hiding in the first place are wrong? What? And I'm sitting there like, oh my god, stupid MC energy in spades. Luffy meets Naruto, you know, fan fiction. Isn't this brain dead? I'm just saying, like, god damn. And then he's like totally shocked. Oh my god. And then he goes and he actually asks a librarian about it. Like this dude does not stop trying to get himself with a, you know, a bullseye on the back of his head. You know? So he's just talking about them, asking about the primordial gods. Oh no, those are just legends. So he's just like, oh, well, this must mean all the primordial gods are gone. So if they've never heard of them, yeah, they must be gone. They no longer exist. I can run back and I can save old man Feldis, and he doesn't need to keep up the barrier any longer, and blah, 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 blah. And then, of course, we see one of the three remaining primordial gods is Griever. And then he rushes back, of course. He's following him in these, like, bubble spheres and stuff like that. Like, he's been following all the, been watching through these, like, crystal bubbles of his or what have you. Once again, he's got that Egyptian sort of eye, so I assume he's a, you know, Horus or somebody like that. And, anyways, so he's just like, yes, they're all gone. Nobody's hunting us. The village can finally be free. So he, yeah, obviously the primordial gods just tracked this kid. They probably didn't see him, exit originally. You know, they couldn't be watching everywhere all at once. But when he was asking about it, and they were like, oh, someone with the name. Oh, they tracked him. They've been following him this whole time. Once he opened the barrier and slipped right through, you know, he was just like, okay, well, this is all going to be good. And the barrier supposedly closes behind him, but no, boom, immediately kills VELK. Well, it looks like. I don't know how he survives this. It literally, a laser beam creates a giant hole like through his entire abdomen and stuff like that. So I don't know how he's supposed to semi-survive this. So shoots VELK right through. And the three remaining, supposedly, once again, Izangi, where are you? The last three remaining primordial gods are right here, all looking really cracked up. It's the Medusa-looking lady, the Horus guy, and the other guy, who I just call Fish Guy. I don't know why I call him Fish Guy, but he always just... I was like, if you told me like he was a shark god or a, sea urchin god, I'd be like, yeah, okay. So anyways, he's like, how many eons have we waited? So it's been a long ass time. I was saying millennia, and it's been eons, and the other ones have died and stuff like that. He's like, this barrier, work of Golnir, it's finally done, and those who inherited his will, we shall end them. Forgive us, child. We must eliminate any who know the true history. It's our final duty. So they still exist. Velk's like, what? I can't believe it. You mean I did something really fucking stupid? And it's just like, okay, I got no sympathy for this fucking dumb ass kid. And that's where, as I said, they were watching the entire time. They saw him and said, forgive us, child, but this is what must happen. The three of us, the last of our kind, would have gone to Niflheim by then, in just a few more short amount of time, whatever they considered a short amount of time. They've been there for eons. It's like, but we made it. We made it in time. And finally, so he regrets it all, and he's like, well, wait, please. And he's like, don't blame yourself, boy. Thanks to you, the world shall now be saved. And they move forward to kill everyone in the village of Golnir. And it's just like, damn. Right? So what ends up happening here, it ends with a massacre in the name of salvation. I'm going to assume they pretty much get away with murdering everyone, obviously, then whoever Kentoki is sort of idea. And obviously Velk ends up surviving this as the nameless god, and that's why he ends up going to find, Gungir and stuff like that, and finding, the sword of, or the sword Graham and stuff like that, to find the sword of Odin, or the spear of Odin and stuff like that, and he goes forward in that regard. I'm going to assume that this is supposed to be the tragic backstory and stuff like that, which, once again, makes sense now why Velk would do all this stuff. Like, it does make sense. It makes sense why, from my perspective, why Velk now would be like, I want to start Ragnarok and destroy all the gods. All the gods who didn't, It's a twisted version of everything that went down. So, I get it. But, once again, he caused the problem. Like, if anything, he should sort of, because he's the one to blame. He created the problem. I mean, primordial gods are wrong for massacring the whole village just for knowing the real history. This is giving me very world government, Ohara, One Piece vibes. But, Velk, you're the one who led them straight to it. Your very rash, very dumb, very naive actions caused this. So you're accountable as well. Like, nobody in the village is at fault. The other gods who are brainwashed aren't at fault. You and the primordial gods are the ones at fault. I'm just saying. I am just saying. So, anyways, I thought chapter 113 was a quite interesting chapter because it's definitely given us the insight onto how Velk developed and how he got to where he was. But it brings up, once again, that same argument from the last two chapters. Is Golnir right, or are the primordial gods right? And knowing what we know now in the present storyline, everything has now gone down and almost caused by the fact that primordial gods tried to hide it. Had they not done this, Odin wouldn't be Odin. So, a little bit of a catch-22 going on. I don't know. Am I using catch-22 correctly with that one? I don't know. Anyways, what do you guys think, though, of the chapter? Let me know down in the comment section down below. And do you think Izangi was forgotten by the author, even though they are in the chapters with the primordial gods, listed as a primordial god, and then not referenced as one of the primordial gods? Is that an error? Is that a plot error? Maybe. I think it is. And if they try to retcon it, oh, no, Izangi was like the youngest. Out of the 88, he was an apprentice god, but he wasn't actually one of the primordial. Yeah, bullshit. I think they just forgot. I think they just forgot. With all these cool designs, the Medusa eye thing, the Indian chief looking guy and all that stuff, I think they just straight up forgot that Izangi survived the whole damn thing and was actually a part of Ragnarok. So, yeah. Anyways, but that being said, last chapter of the year. And of course, the new season is out on Netflix, and I will be doing review episodes hopefully by mid-January. I will be watching the episodes. I haven't watched a single one yet, but I'm looking forward to it. So I will be watching and reviewing those episodes as well, hopefully, as I said, by mid to late January, once I get caught up and make sure that everything else is in place for the new year. So once again, hope you guys had a really happy Christmas, or however you celebrated, whatever holiday you celebrated, and hope you have a really great New Year's as well. And hopefully your 2025 was better than mine, and your 2026 is even better. So with that, have a good one, everyone. Happy New Year's. Sayonara. See you back here in the new year for more Record of Ragnarok content. Looking forward to it. Hope you guys are too. Sayonara.